Howdy folks, today on this drizzly, dreary, not very often cloudy day in Central Texas, I don't want to have to do this. I was making good progress on my trail, but unfortunately, I am past my first 50 hours on my tractor, which means I have to do these things. So, that's going to start with replacing the engine oil and the oil filter. I only have 2 gallons of hydraulic fluid. If you're unfamiliar with tractors, the hydraulic fluid is actually also the transmission fluid. And unfortunately, I only have 2 gallons. It doesn't say I have to replace the fluid. It just says replace the filter, but hopefully less than 2 gallons comes out when I do that. You know, every time you connect and disconnect something, you lose a little bit of fluid. Not too much on these tractors, actually. I only really had that 2 gallons because I thought I would have to top it off occasionally, but I'm used to the older tractors that have a little bit of leaky connections. But this one really hasn't used any transmission hydraulic fluid, so I haven't really had to use that 2 gallon jug. Hopefully I lose less than 2 gallons when I go to swap out the filters there. The rest of them are just checking some various like axle oil level and stuff like that, checking the torque on various things. A lot of times these tractors, you know, they're not like a car, they're going over rough ground, so things shake loose and rattle loose, and you gotta check the torques, especially for the things like the rollover protection, the safety bar, you know, the wheels, stuff like that. You really need to make sure is tight. And so that's pretty much what this first 50-hour check is, making sure there's no, you know, bad stuff in the engine oil and stuff like that. So that is pretty much what I'm going to be doing today. I don't know where everything is at that I have to be checking, so you might see me looking around sometimes, but I figured I might as well take you all along for the ride while I do this work today. It's not super muddy on the ground, but hopefully this cardboard will keep me somewhat safe. And I guess let's begin. So these are just safety stops while you're working underneath the loader. You know, I forget how many, it's at least 1,000 pounds. Probably closer to 2,000 with the attachment on there. Anytime you're working around underneath that, you don't want, I think it's more from an era of, you know, older tractors, leaky hoses. Every now and then you know, it's a lot of pressure on those hoses. If one pops, you know, that thing could fall on you and cause some serious damage. So I think this is more of a thing from the past where tractors had leaky stuff and hoses could crack and break. So I haven't had any problems with this tractor, but still it's always a good idea. You don't have to have a fancy metal thing like that. You can use a block of wood, but honestly, block of wood would probably be the most cost-effective thing for you. But I just figured might as well get something like that fits in there, that's secure, it's held in place with a pen, it's not going to pop out like a block of wood. You know, the saying safety first isn't really, I don't know, you can think about safety first, but you can't practice safety first, because if you put safety above everything else, you're never going to do it. Like, you couldn't even drive on the road. So it's all about risk assessment is the better word. I like to think of it. Anyway, y'all probably know that, just kind of talking. So that's done, and I'm gonna blow it out, and gotta blow out the radiator. You know what, let's change the camera view here so you can get a better look at the engine and the guts in there as I blow out the inside. Well, as you saw, this does not fit in there. It almost does if I bend the hose, but then it's not at an angle where the oil would really drain. Alright, that completes my maintenance for the 50-hour. Well, for me it was actually more like 65 hour. But it's first 50 hours you're supposed to check a lot of those things. Replace the engine oil and the hydraulic oil filter. I tried to show it in the video, but you're just checking to make sure that there's no metal shavings or anything like that in the inside of the filter, and it was all good. So I changed the engine oil, and the transmission fluid didn't need to change, it just needed to swap out the filter. So that's done. The rest of this stuff is basically just tightening things, checking the front oil axle level. I didn't actually crack that nut because, I mean, I could see around there where it was completely good, and I did inspect that when I first got the tractor. So, you know, that's not leaking. It was good when I got it. There's no sign of dust or anything, oil seepage from those joints. So I really think that they're good. So I didn't even open that up. The other thing, checking the torque on the wheels and the ROPS. It has a few other things which I'm not gonna do, like check the clutch free play. Well, first of all, I don't have a clutch. Check brake adjustment, equalize, like that kind of stuff's good, and I'll fix it as it, you know, if it ever becomes a problem. So other than that, I didn't grease the joints because those are every 10 hours, and I just did those. So that pretty much does it for the 50-hour maintenance. I I hope you all enjoyed. I don't know well, okay, so what else I can't say? I almost said goodbye and then kept talking, but I didn't quite say goodbye. I caught myself. Just in case you're curious, the normal periodicity is, let's see, right, let's get to the periodicity chart. It does have a nice, it would have been nice if it said, hey, these bolts have this torque pattern, but instead it says, you know, M16 by 1.5 grade 10.9, which you can see clearly on the bolt, is this torque spec if it's permanent, this torque spec if it's for reuse. That would have been great if it was a little bit more clear, especially the common ones like the wheel lug nut, and maybe it said it somewhere else, but you know, the wheel nuts are this torque, the ROPS are this torque, you know, everything else onto the frame. But I guess they use too many different sizes to do that, so they just put it in a chart. It wasn't a big deal, especially since it's a, you know, the bolts aren't, you know, 50 years old and rusted, so you can see the grade on them. So it's pretty easy. Here is the normal periodicity chart. Just in case anybody is curious, I think you can see that pretty good. So I'm not sure the periodicity on competitive tractors, but just in case you're curious for this tractor, you know, it's change engine oil. It's that first 50 hours, but then it's a replacement every 300 hours for the engine oil. And then for the transmission oil, it's every 600 hours to replace the transmission fluid, which that's a big one, so that's nice. That's only every 600 hours. So, you know, if this was a big utility tractor that you put a lot more hours on it, those periodicities might not be great. But for someone who might only do a couple hundred hours a year, it's not too bad. I don't know. If you got anything else you want to know about the maintenance, let me know. I think that's pretty much it. This time I actually did forget to say goodbye, so goodbye.